They met 3 years ago. Jack was 30 years old. Karen was 5 years younger and had absolutely no luck with men. For example, she dated a good man for 6 months, and then he turned out to be married. The other just disappeared after a few months of dating. She and Jack met by happy accident. Jack was driving a car, and when he passed Karen he accidentally splashed her all over with water from the puddle which was on the road. Karen was just on her way to a friend's birthday party. Jack jumped out of the car and started apologizing, and then he offered to take her to the store to get a new dress. And they've been together ever since. That evening they went to her friend's birthday party together. The next day Jack invited her to the movies, and 3 months later he proposed to get married. Jack did not ask much about Karen's past. And he did not tell her anything too. He said briefly that he was not interested in women, he was working and building a career. Karen decided that everything that was before her was Jack's personal past, and it was none of her business. Jack was often away on long business trips. Karen did not like to stay alone in the apartment and get bored in the evenings, watching soap operas. But there was no other option. Jack was paid decent money for his job, and it was impossible to refuse to go on business trips. And so once again Karen said goodbye to her husband for a few weeks. She hugged him tightly, and asked him not to forget about her and to call more often. Jack promised to do so. He kissed his wife and left the apartment. Karen looked out the window after the leaving husband. The day before, Karen had learned really good news. She was finally pregnant. She decided not to tell her husband yet, because she wanted to do it in a festive atmosphere. She thought he would come back from a business trip. She would arrange a romantic dinner and tell him. Karen dreamed of how excited he would be about their first child, but her happiness was interrupted by a phone call. She looked at the table and saw Jack's phone. He had forgotten it at home. Karen began to worry about how he would cope on a business trip without a phone. But he had a service phone, so everything would be fine. Karen picked up the phone to see who was calling. It was an unfamiliar number. She decided not to pick it up, and just to tell her husband later that he had received a call. No sooner had she put the phone on the table than a new message arrived. Jack was asked not to forget to buy his daughter a coat and a knitted cap. Karen did not understand anything. She stared at the screen with surprised eyes. It was unclear what they were talking about. Maybe someone got the wrong number. Then another message came on, saying that Jack was expected by 5, just as the children were coming from the kindergarten. Karen was shocked. It turns out that Jack cheated on her and had a family on the side. The woman did not know how to react to this. She wanted to smash the ill-fated phone on the floor. Then she thought of calling him and telling him everything. But he could have lied. Karen wanted to look into his eyes when she met him in person to understand everything. She was sure she would get him out in the open. The woman was very upset. Again she had been cheated by a man, but this time she was pregnant. Karen berated herself for not recognizing the catch in time, though she knew in her heart that there was nothing to catch. Jack always behaved normally, did not give any reason, always came home on time. But about business trips she was not sure. Perhaps he had a mistress there with a daughter. Karen started to cry. After she calmed down a bit, she decided to see if any pictures had been sent from this number. And she found several. One showed her husband holding a little boy who was no older than 3 years old, and a girl of about 7 was standing beside him. There were several other pictures of children alone. And in another photo was an old lady with them. Karen couldn't find any pictures of unknown women. The woman was at a loss. She realized that the girl was born before their relationship started, and the boy a year after their wedding. So it was not for nothing that Jack kept quiet about the past. He had something to hide. Karen did not know what to do. She understood that now they have to leave, and she will bring up her child alone. She decided to do nothing now and then to ask her husband what the problem was. 2 weeks passed. She could barely wait for Jack to come back from his business trip. He ran in joyful, tried to hug his wife, but she pulled away. He asked what happened. Karen immediately asked about the children, the other woman, and why he was hiding it. He realized that she had read the messages. The man immediately began to apologize. He said there were no other women except Karen, but there was one secret he could not find the courage to tell her. It turned out that the girl was his own daughter, but the boy was not. Their mother's name was Roxy and they lived together for 2 years. They had a daughter and were happy. At least, that's what Jack thought. And then out of the blue, Roxy left him for his best friend. Jack had a long time to recover from the betrayal and tried to forget his unfaithful wife. Years went by, and he met Karen. They fell in love and got married. Jack did not see his daughter, though he really wanted to, but resentment did not allow. He could not even see his ex-wife, because he was shocked by her infidelity with his best friend. And a year ago he found out one terrible thing. His former mother-in-law called him and told that Roxy and his best friend had been in an accident and they were gone. And his daughter and her little brother were left with her grandmother. Now he visits them. Every time he tries to go on business trips closer to their area. The children become more and more attached to him, waiting for him to come. And each time it gets harder for everyone to get over the parting. Jack put his head down. Karen realized that he wanted to take the children for himself. He can't leave his own daughter in this position. And without her brother, the girl would not be well, so they have to take them together. Karen loved her husband very much. And she understood that if she did not show mercy and did not accept his children, her relationship with her husband would also break down. After all, her husband would subconsciously accuse her and blame her for the suffering of those innocent children. And this is not the foundation on which they can build a strong family. In general, Karen made up her mind, even though she was not yet even acquainted with the children. Jack raised his happy eyes to her and hugged her tightly, whispering words of gratitude. And Karen immediately told him that they would soon have even more children, because she was pregnant. Jack was beyond happy. That's how interesting life is, thought Karen. A month ago she had no children at all, and now she will have 3 at once. A couple of months later they got all the documents and took the children to their place. Their grandmother did not mind at all. She was happy that her grandchildren would have a father and a mother. The children gradually got used to their new surroundings and their new mother. Karen tried her best to make the girl feel like at home, and gradually they became friends. And the boy felt good everywhere, as long as his beloved sister and daddy were there for him. Karen was aware that she was doing a very important act in her life and assumes great responsibility as a woman and mother. But she was not afraid of it, because she had her beloved husband, who appreciates and supports her in everything.